Without two, nothing is there. So please keep this thing in your mind first. The laser high beam is split into two components. You can compare this laser beam of light as a one source from where we are getting the light. ठीक है, हम उसको रिलेट करके चलते हैं. एक सोर्स जहां से लाइट आ रही है, दैट्स पास थ्रू द लेंस. एक सोर्स से जो लाइट आ रही है उसको लेंस से पास किया, राइट? By a half mirror, that is a semi-transparent mirror. This allows part of the beam to be continued undisturbed while part of it is deflected to the another mirror. Both narrow beams are spread open by lenses. The upper beam, which we shall call the reference beam, main beam is reference beam, arrive at the photographic plate after an event-less flight. उसकी जिंदगी में कोई इवेंट नहीं हुई. एक लेंस लिया, बेटे पीछे आगे आगे जाना, और आगे जाना. यस, दिस इज लेजर एंड दिस इज हाफ मिरर, नॉट फुल मिरर, फ्रॉम विच वी हैड पास्ड अ लाइट थ्रू द लेंस, एंड दिस part of this light is passed directly to the photographic plate through the lens. I am talking about this light first. Abhi go back again. The laser light beam is split into two components by a half mirror, that is a semi-transparent mirror. This allows part of the beam to continue undisturbed while parts of it is deflected to the another mirror. Both narrow beams are spread open by lenses. The upper beam, which we shall call the reference beam, arrives at the photographic plate after an eventless flight. No event in their flight is there. That directly reaches to the photographic plate. Very important. Please be present. Since no event of note has occurred on its way to the plate, it proceeds then to deposit its imprint on the film. तो इसने जाके अपना इम्प्रिंट फिल्म पे दे दिया. नेक्स्ट, एक बार फिर वहीं पे जाना, फोटोग्राफ पे जाना. नाउ सेकंड पार्ट ऑफ बीम, दिस बीम, वन पार्ट इज विदाउट एनी एक्सपीरियंस, reached there, and one part is from here and then here. One part of us is from here and without experience there, and one part is here. You can say we got divided here into two parts. As a consciousness, we got divided into two parts. As lens had divided the rays into two parts. Now this part of beam is mirrored on the another lens, and experience this thing through this event of this lens and reach to this mirror, and then created an interference pattern through the apple and created a photograph on the plate. Next बेटे, आगे लेना, हाँ. Next मैं दस, this one, and plate become incarnated with all this type of mirror, and when we put the light on this plate from one side, and we got the image of the apple, right? This is hologram. Let us move back to the same thing where we was. पीछे जाना. Yes, the other half of the beam we shall call the working beam. This beam's trip had an event. It had encountered on its way an object. One part of our is divine spark when we was one, that is with the life. Many years it will be with the life. And one part of us, that the divine part is our primitive part. Then our brain got divided into two. I had told earlier, this brain has to experience something to be one with the one. Okay? One beam got divided into two. One part of it is original one without any experience, and one part is got divided into experience something. So now the part of life that has experienced something as a beam, the other half of the beam we shall call the working beam. This beam's tip had an event. It had encountered on its way an object, in this case an apple, that it had illuminated and with which it had interacted. The working beam will then be reflected from the apple and fall on the film. there it will meet its twin and reference beam, that is reference beam, and will tell it all about its experience with. वहाँ पे जाके मिली and told her, I had gone through this experience. Now again become one. This thing is like from Gurbani, पवने में पवन समाया, ज्योति में ज्योत रल जाया. सूर्य किरण मिली, we are the part of that great power, Surya. Kiran mili. When we had experienced this life and become a super, you can say spiritual one, Surya किरण मिली, जल का जल हुआ राम. वापसी हो गई. तो एक एक्सपीरियंस ओरिजिनल, एक लाइफ का, and again we joined at some part of life after that experience and created that wonderful hologram of our life. It is like that. Something is still there. The apple, neither of them suspected that their interaction is being recorded on the film. The interaction between the two beams will cause ripples to form between them, which will form the interference pattern will be already familiar with, since the light wave behave in the same way as the water waves. चलो इतना हमें होगा कि hologram ऐसे बन रहा है. अभी हम we are talking about relativity, relative to things. So we got divided into two parts. From one beam we got divided into two parts. One is experiencing something and one is going directly to the target. ठीक है? After experiencing some events, then that beam is also reached to the same target, creating a picture of apple. Next. We had gone through. However, these ripples do not at all resemble the shape of the apple. But as we already know, the ripple in the photographic emulsion do contain information. So information of experiences got stored on the plate as that information is getting encoded on our brain. And that information can be elicited from the film by eliminating the exposed film with the same light used in making the hologram. As we do that, we shall see the apple appear suspended in the mid-air and looking very three-dimensional and real. We could be easily deceived when viewing the image reconstructed from the hologram that we were seeing the actual object. इतना क्लियर है. ये हम बन गए, ये हमारी फोटोग्राफ बन गया, होलोग्राम हो गया. ये हम होलोग्राम बन गए. ऐसे कह लिए कि ये बीम से एप्पल का जो फोटोग्राफी हम बन गए. नेक्स्ट ये मेन जो एसेंस है इस चीज का. Note that the important part of holographic image making is the interaction of the reference beam. This holographic picture of us is, this holograph is meant by the reference to the, note that the important part of holographic image making is the interaction of the reference beam. जो बहुत important part है इसका holograph formation का, that is interaction of the two beams divided from one got divided into two. Then what is आगे क्या है? A beam that is pure vision and untouched, original source of us, with a working beam which has had some experience in its life. Right? यहाँ तक हम आ गए. The magnitude of these experiences is being measured against the reference beam, which serve as a baseline of comparison. Our senses are comparing the data. Our senses are comparing the data until or unless two things are not there, your senses could not able to compare. Right? One is pure vision beam and one is working beam. When they met and they created a holograph, the magnitude of these experiences, magnitude of we as a life experience is being measured against the reference beam. मैंने जिंदगी में क्या एक्सपीरियंस किया will be measured against the other people what he had experienced. Right? I used to take the reference beam from Guru Nanak. Now you will take my point to the other side even. I will use to take my reference beam as Guru Nanak. Right? What is the reference beam for other mortal peoples? We are comparing ourselves with the others only. If we are comparing with the others who are also mortals like us, what that comparison will give us? Relativity only. What I want to say is, one incomplete person is comparing himself with the other incomplete person. And we are trying to complete ourselves by comparing with other incomplete peoples. I can say two peoples got married when we are not conscious enough and we are going to be complete. तेरे साथ मैं complete हो जाऊंगा. This thing never happen until you can able to realize this thing. Okay, we will be complete with the source only. We will be completed with the source only. When we Surya Kiran mili, tabhi वापसी होगी. Otherwise, this working beam is on the track, its own track, and this reference beam will be its own track, and we will be able to compare ourselves with the others only, not able to compare with the basic thing. This will be more clear in the next few words we had.